Hey guys, welcome to this edition of Turnaround Marriage. We are excited just to spend a few minutes reflecting with you today on the question, are we destined to just be roommates? And I asked that question not only because there was a time that it felt like we were just roommates,
hmm
but because I talk to people all the time and they wonder the exact same question.
Yeah, we're going to be diving into how you got there and what you can do to get out of that rut. But first, we want to just introduce ourselves. We are Scott and Rachel, and with Turnaround Marriage, and we help Christian couples finally end the cycles of conflict, negativity, and disconnection, and step into their God honoring identity as they reclaim the love, passion, and playfulness that they once had. So we're glad you're checking us out and tuning in. And if you are living as a roommate with your spouse and this was not what you signed up for those months or years ago, we have something good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And who did? I mean,
Right.
who signed up for that? And it's interesting because when you get married, you have the dreams about the future. You think about, the 2.5 kids in the yard and the cat. You,
Or the dog.
and you've got all these dreams of what marriage is going to look like, right? And then it's like once you start getting into that life, and you've got kids that start clamoring for your attention, and they're crying, and they have needs, and there's diapers to be changed, and they're grabbing your pant leg. What
hmm
happens? What happens when, like that?
Well, I think we get into these ruts of if we could just get the kids to sleep through the night, right?
Right,
If we
right.
could just get the kids to be potty trained, if we could just get a little me time, if we could just
Get a little sleep
get
even
it to, yeah,
early
if,
on.
if
Yeah.
I wasn't so tired, if we had more time. And guess what? Then your kids are in school, and then all of a sudden it's like the crazy after school activities. If we just could wait until spring, or if we could just look forward to summer, and it's like we're always looking for the next thing, and the urgency of the right now just crowds out what happens. And then it's like that loneliness starts to creep in, that disconnection starts to creep in, and then you start to feel alienated, and then some resentment starts to build. And then it's like, hang on, this isn't what I signed up for.
It
Picking up
isn't.
your dirty underwear off the floor
It
and like
isn't. Yeah.
wiping kids' faces, all day long. Like, what happened to the romance? What happened to all this stuff? And why are we just roommates talking about who's picking up the kids and what's for dinner and where are we going this weekend?
Yeah. And that's really what usually happens. And it's the same not only with us, but a lot of people that we talk to. And it might have happened different ways. Like it could have been, the kids early on, but it also could be the teenage years where they're pulling you 17 different ways, and they've got, all these different practices that they're a part of. And like sometimes it feels like you exist to make the house function, like whether your role is doing the kitchen or you're driving the kids or whatever it would be.
Yeah.
And it's just like you get so focused on just doing everything for everyone else that you forget about the most important unit, which is the two of us. I mean, they're the
Mm-hmm.
fruit of the vine. They're not the vine. They need for us to be strong, for them to be strong too. But it may not be kids. I mean, it could be finances. It could be all kinds of things that just the busyness of life, maybe your
It could be
career.
the work schedules and the demands of work and all the stress that goes with that. And then all of a sudden you can turn around and be empty nesters and be like, I don't even know you. Like, we haven't even had a
Yeah.
conversation about anything other than, you know, the
Yeah.
to-do list,
that
whatever.
that reminds me, I was talking to a couple just earlier this week, and they called obviously with some issues going on in their marriage. But I asked them a question, like, you have a child, the last of three, about to be out the door in a year or so. What's it going to be like not having any kids around? And they had not really thought about it, like had not hit them yet.
Mm.
And that's the reality. But wherever you are, whether there's kids in the home or whether they're out already or about to be out, it doesn't matter. The answer to the question is, you're not destined to just be roommates.
Mm-hmm.
God has so much more than just that. And so we're going to talk about how to get out of that in a minute. But I just want to say, it is in our culture with the people we talk to, and it became the story for us as well. This is probably oftentimes the norm. The pursuit of the American dream at all costs, the pursuit of making your kids happy,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it would be, pursuit of your career, pursuit of money. You can go on and on.
Stuff.
If it's not us, yeah, everybody. There's people that got two boats and uh, you know multiple cars that are really nice and vacation homes and whatever, but they're not doing very well, the two of them. So
Right.
yeah, we'll get to that priorities in a minute. So how do we get out of that, Rach? What comes to mind as if we realize that we're roommates and as we once were, how do you get out of that?
Well, yeah, we've come up with some steps that you can take right away to start turning the ship, so to speak.
Yeah.
But before we talk about that, I just thought of one more thing.
Yeah.
You know, as the roommate thing happens, what we see so often, and what happened in our marriage too, is that I became like your nagging mother, and you became this annoying slob, right? It was just like our roles were just, we were out of the husband and wife. We were out of that, like, loving each other, respecting each other, this beautiful romance, and how can we serve? It was just like, ah, why can't you pick up your dirty laundry? And then she's like, and you're like, why is she such a nag, right? And then you
Hmm.
get into this mothering mode of the wives. We get so tired and we get so, annoyed, and then it's like, what happened to that spark? What happened?
Right.
So anyway, we want to give you guys some practical tips on what you can do today to start turning this ship.
Yeah.
The very first thing you've got to do is basically you've got to decide this is not okay. This is
Right.
not okay. Like, so far, if you're living as roommates the way we were several years ago, if you're living as roommates, you have allowed this standard in your life for this season,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
And so if you've allowed it, this is what it is. Like, you're going to get what you keep getting unless you do something different. So the first thing is you've got to decide, we're breaking out of this. We're going to do something different.
Yeah. I think also, like with COVID and all the, early in the year, everybody's closed into their house, and it's like suddenly everybody's together, and people started to realize, because there was nowhere else to go, they started to realize that it wasn't okay,
Mhm.
and I think that was, and they blamed COVID for it. And really, COVID wasn't the problem. It was that they were roommates and not lovers, that they were
Mhm.
not best friends, that they were not on the same team. And so, yeah, I think that's right, Rachel. Just to come to grips with, this isn't the way it should be. And not blaming anyone else, not blaming her, not blaming him, but coming to the place where you guys realize, wow, this is not what God intended this to be. This is not what we wanted this to be. This is not what I dreamed that this marriage was going to be. I thought it was going to be till death do us part, that we would be lovers and investing in each other, and that this would be the safe place and the most important relationship, and we'd have tons of fun together, and nothing could ever come between us. Yet we allowed so many things to come between us. That's the
Mhm.
bottom line.
Yeah.
So you have to get to the place, guys, where you, even if it's just one of you, just say, it's not okay for us just to be roommates. That's not what God intended marriage to be, guys. And you know that. You know that. But how long did we allow it anyways?
The busyness of the right now. It went on for years. We went on for years, and then
Because there was more busyness.
yeah.
That's the next thing we
And
had to
the
do.
lie is, oh, it's going to be less busy when that happens.
Right.
And guess what? The kids just
Right.
get bigger and older and require more time until all of a sudden they're gone. And then you're left with a stranger if you haven't connected and all of that kind of thing.
So when's the best time to get it? This is a side question. When's the best time to fix things?
When you're sick and tired of staying sick and tired, I would say
Yeah.
right now. I
Yeah.
mean, why wait, right? This life
Exactly.
is so short. How fast are your kids growing up? How fast are the gray hairs showing up? How fast is this life? Like, this is a little blip that God gives us. And so
Yeah.
we've got to make the most of it, and we've got to basically make that decision that this
Yeah.
is not okay. Like, let's do something
Yeah.
different.
And make that commitment to the Lord. Like, just lay it out before him and say, Lord, this is not honoring to you. And I'm not honoring my husband or wife. And you guys talk about it together and say, this is not okay for us. And get to that place of being sick and tired of it being this way.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to get to that place where you both, at least one of you, will agree, we're not doing this anymore. We're not
Mm-hmm.
doing this half-baked marriage. We're doing all in, where we serve each other, which leads us to the second step that you can take, which are to get your priorities in line. Now,
Yeah,
that's where you got lost in the first place, right?
absolutely. It's huge. Because, yeah, like I said, because the urgency of the right now, it can crowd everything else out. I mean, how many times have you scheduled meetings, or you have appointments, or you have these blocks of time where you've got to be at work, or you've got to be somewhere, and how many times have maybe you tried to do something with your spouse, and then that didn't get in the calendar or on the calendar, and so then it got pushed away. Oh well, we can do that later.
Yeah.
Well, let's we right now we've got to get him to the dentist. We've got to do this. We've got to be at this work. I have this meeting.
Yeah.
And so it's like if it's not on the calendar,
Yep.
Look at your calendar.
Get shoved out of the way.
This is the best place to see where your priorities are. Is
Yeah.
where are you spending all of your time? And if you might be like I was a time waster in those downtimes. Was like I was just scrolling on Facebook and just spending all this time wasting
Yeah.
when that could have been I'm sitting here scrolling instead of talking to the person right next to me on the couch, like right.
Oh, how often do we see people sitting eating dinner out on their date and they're scrolling on their phones like they've forgotten how to even talk to each other?
Yeah.
That's so sad when we see that. But yeah, it is the priorities that got out of whack. I mean, how often is it even as simple as, is God first? Is God first in your family? Is church even on the radar for you guys? Like, do you guys pray together? Is that part of at least your meal time together? Are there other times you're in God's word? Like, what part does the Lord play? And if he's not first, that's alarm bells right there. And that's what's going to lead to problems. But then the next, it's to love the Lord your God. This is what we're called to. It's to love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. And who's your first neighbor? Right here, the closest one,
the guy right next to you,
that God made you one with, right? So that what God has called you to is to have those priorities. So the next priority in line is the two of you, and that's where you got to look at how you're spending your time.
And how often do we see that the children become the priority?
Yes.
Over the parents. And we're not saying you neglect your children. We're not saying you don't care for them. We're not saying you abandon them or push them to the side. We're saying they have to come after the marriage, because
yes.
If they think they're the center of your world and everything revolves around them, they're going to grow up to be.
That's where we got lost.
Well, yeah. And then that kid is going to grow up to be not a nice person, not right. Someone who feels entitled, someone who feels like the world owes them, right? They're going to have a completely wrong mentality when they think that, how come you're not jumping when I say how high or whatever.
That's true.
And so, so that second step is really to get those priorities lined up. And how about the third step?
The third step is so crucial, making deposits. And what we mean by that is daily being intentional to give just a little bit of what your spouse needs. So do you or your spouse need to be nagged? Is that what you want? No, of course not. What do you desire most in that relationship but to be encouraged, to be blessed, to feel like they love you unconditionally, like to give a drop of grace when things are tough.
But you don't know what he does, or you don't know what she says to me, or you don't know how he treats me.
I know we could go on and on, but to show a little bit of gratitude for what the other person does, it's not just like a little bit of help. It's huge, especially for a man. I think a man even needs it more than a woman. That type of encouragement, different type of encouragement for a woman.
So what do you mean only give them a drop?
At least that. Anytime you can. I mean,
only a drop.
Well, I mean, a drop goes a long way. I mean, just a touch of grace when you have not been showing that to each other. It's like water in a desert. Like even a drop is like, thank you. And then after that, like if you start giving to the other person and they start getting filled and nourished by you, they in turn will do the same to you.
Yeah.
Now that's just not to say that that's always easy. Of course not. Well, that will be our next point that we talk about. But showing a little bit of gratitude can go so far. Showing a little bit of thanks, showing a little bit of grace, not having to get the last word in sometimes, not having to win the argument, not there to, to blame shift and be the winner of the day.
Or prove your point.
Yeah. Like even the other day, you said to me when we were in a little bit of a tiff, you said, why can't you just say you're sorry? And I thought, why can't I just say I'm sorry? So I did. And there were many times I wouldn't have done that, but I just, we've gotten in better patterns, and that's exactly what we need to do.
Yeah. Because we have that rule and that joke that says, whoever says sorry first wins. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And we joke around with our teenagers about this. Yeah. I'm sorry. Like, are you really, but yeah, showing that drop of grace. Cause here's the thing, the scriptures teach us that what you sow is what you're going to reap. So if you're sowing nagging, discontentment, criticism, contempt, name calling. If you're sowing discord, all these things that the scripture tells us not to sow, guess what you're going to get? You cannot plant a corn seed and hope to get broccoli, right? You cannot deposit that kind of stuff and then expect to have a good marriage.
Yeah.
And so, sowing and reaping is a huge principle, and it's not like we do it to get something.
Yeah.
But the principle is true. If you do it, you tend to get it. I mean, the principle is generally true.
And one thing I'd add, we actually have some amazing superstar graduates of our program. And one of them said last night, he's an awesome dude. And by the way, we provide ongoing support after our people graduate indefinitely. Where do you find that? But anyway, he said, he sets an alarm to remind him to send a little bit of encouragement to his wife. I was like, how simple is that? Like, just put it in the phone. Just remind yourself. And what did that mean to his wife?
It meant the world to her. And you know what? She did not even care that he had to set a reminder.
She didn't care.
Because his work day is crazy. He's stressed out. There's a lot going on at work. He works really long hours. But for him to set the reminder and then to take the minute to do that, it fills up her tank like nothing else. And it's just been so fun to see them soar. And so the same is true for you guys. You can start making those deposits in the other person. And if you're waiting for them to go first, you're probably going to lose. So I challenge you, whoever knows should do it.
Yes.
If you're the one watching this video, I challenge you to start making those deposits.
Absolutely.
Into your spouse's soul. What do they need to fill up that love tank, so to speak?
Yeah. And I feel like every married Christian knows these things, right? There's nothing new under the sun here. But what I would say is that we've gotten out of those habits. And when we start implementing them back, everything can change. But I also realize that there are people out there that maybe those ruts have gotten so deep that maybe those seeds of poison that they've been giving to each other are it's like, how do you unravel that? How do you get unstuck? I feel like that's where we come in. And so that's our fourth step, is to get help. And so what I want to encourage you to do is to check out our masterclass. If you've not seen that, we're going to post a link on here afterwards. The 5 simple steps that couples that we work with can take to really turn around their marriage quickly. And of course, after that, we're also available to have a free call together. But I think it's a great place to start if you realize that there's some deep patterns that are not working, that things are not working the way you want them to in the marriage. And here, guys, we want to mostly just encourage you at the end of this is that there's hope. Like, even if it feels like things are not working the way you want them to, it's not that far away. It really isn't. It's not that far away. And we've blown that out of the water, that misconception that it's going to take years and years to get things back on track. No, really, in a short amount of time, in the matter of weeks and months, everything can be different. So check out that masterclass. We're going to be launching, guys, we'll probably make a video about it specifically, but a gratitude challenge. Yeah. And that's a great way. This is really on our hearts today to publicly share that, tag your spouse. And even if they're not in our group, just to say, look what I said about you today, and just to express gratitude. And it changes you, changes your own heart, your own mind, and it's powerful. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be giving away a free date night. And just in the next few days, we'll be launching that. So look for info on that.
Yeah, that starts November 1st. So be watching for more info on that. But, the literature is clear in terms of science, the science of gratitude. Like, you can literally rewire your brain. You cannot both feel anxious and frustrated at the same time. You cannot do it. Physiologically, neurochemically, you cannot do it. And so when you can get into gratitude and really learn how to practice that, it can change everything. Even if your marriage is miserable, if you can start practicing gratitude, things will not feel as horrible as they are for you right now. I'm telling you, God's word is true. How many times does it say give thanks? I don't know. We should look that up, because it's hundreds of times in the scriptures.
270, something like that.
Okay, you have looked it up. Okay.
It's been a while. It's something like that.
Yeah, it's a ton. It's a ton. And so anyway, we're going to challenge you for that in November, but we're going to head off to our date night.
Yes.
We're wishing you guys health and happiness in your marriage. Reach out for help, and we'll post that link to our masterclass below. And we hope you guys have a great night.
Awesome. God bless you guys. Have a good one.
Bye. don't have to stay roommates.
I wonder why it's taking so long to end.
Gosh, I hope that worked.
We assume it's still going.